Hello friends, this is Yana Smakula. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I have a quick card to share using a new BetterPress plate from Spellbinders from the Pressed Posies collection or the BetterPress Spring collection. So this collection has two different names. I have a Cosmos background plate here. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's a large plate designed to work for an A2 card. It's slightly larger than an A2 card. Let me grab a card base so that I can show you the actual size. So you can see it is slightly larger than an A2 card, and this is done so that you could have a full A2 background. I went ahead and I foiled this plate using Spellbinders foil. I really love to use BetterPress plates for foiling. I love to use them in my Glimmer hot foil system, and you can see this result here. Now, this is Simon Says stamp, 130-pound cardstock. I love this cardstock for foiling because it's very smooth, so you can foil really well on this paper. But I also love this paper for coloring with Copic markers or any alcohol markers. And I do want to color this using my Copic markers. So this is the reason why I picked this particular paper. When you are working with any type of product, it matters a great deal what kind of paper you're using. If I wanted to BetterPress this plate, I probably would have used specialty BetterPress paper from Spellbinders, unless I wanted to press it on colored cardstock, which you can also do, but you just won't get as great of a result. What I'm trying to say is paper matters. Because I knew I wanted to do coloring with alcohol markers, I picked the type of paper that I'm most comfortable using for Copic marker coloring. Next, I'm going to color the background. I picked a really pretty shrimp color. This is actually called shrimp from Olo. So this is OR 2.2. I'm going to use this marker to color the entire background this color. The reason I'm using Olo markers for the background is because my Olos are a lot more saturated than my Copic markers. I do have refills for most of my Copics, yet still Olos are a lot juicier, and I find it just easier to use Olos to color backgrounds. When you color over a foiled image, you don't want to go over foiling too much. Just color next to the foiling without going over the foiled areas, because otherwise you might remove some of the foiling. When you are using an alcohol marker to color a large area, you might need to go over that section 2 times or even 3 times to have a nice solid coverage of ink. Otherwise, your ink coverage might be splotchy as the ink absorbs into the paper and dries. So keep that in mind when you are picking the color, the marker color you want to use for your background. If you know that your marker is not very juicy, you might want to skip that marker and pick another one that is a lot juicier, or that you have a refill for, to color the background. I like to color in sections in case my coloring doesn't work out well. Because if it doesn't work out well, I can just stop and start over on a new piece of paper. So I colored a little bit of the background, and now I want to color the leaves to see if the color combo that I selected for this card is going to work. Next, I'm using one of my go-to color combinations for green markers. This is G99, G94, and YG03. So this is going to give me a darker green, and I do want to have darker, more saturated green leaves here on this background. Next, I'm just adding the darker G99. Again, I am trying not to go over the foiled areas too much, so that I do not ruin the foiling, but still I do need to add, some flicks with my marker. I do need to do some blending, so I am going over foiling a little bit. And using the YG03 to do the final blending. And there we have the leaf. Next, I'm going to make my flowers white with a yellow and black flower centers. So I'm using Y35 to color the flower center yellow. And I'll then come in with dark gray. I need to tilt my paper in the white so that I can see if I've colored all the sections or not, because I have quite a lot of glare here from all of that foiling. For my flower, for the white color, the white isn't ever white, so there needs to be shadows and highlights, and with the white stamping, of course, we can't really do any more highlights. So white is going to be the highlight, but we can add some shading. So shading can be added by using gray markers, and I'm going to use cool grays. I have the C1 and also the C3 markers. So let's start with the C1 and add some shadows at the base of the petal. We can also use this marker to create petal folds. So I'm just adding lines. They're not necessarily visible on my petal, so I don't have any foil lines here, but I can envision them on this petal, and I can create them by using my marker. Next, the C3. Just going to add a little bit of this color at the very base of my petal, and maybe a tiny bit where I have the folds. So there you can already see that the petal has some dimension. Going to continue doing this technique to color all of the petals on this flower. My C3 marker is in need of a refill, so I'm not adding too much C3 onto my petals, just a little bit. I have ordered a re-inker because I don't have a re-inker for C3 in my stash, so I have ordered it and it's on the way, but it's going to take some time before it gets here. So I'm kind of trying to make do with what I have for now. Next, I have my C7 and C9 markers. I'm going to add dots to the flower center to make it a little bit darker, because I do want a darker flower center. I don't want it to be yellow. I do want to have a little bit of yellow, but for the most part, I want the flower center to be this dark, almost black color. So there we go. I wasn't quite happy with the color of the background that I had done previously. It just looked odd for me, so I looked at other colors that I have. And I really like this YG 8.7 from Olo. This is a very dark green. Of course, this is going to dramatically change the look of this card. I kind of tried adding this color around the edge here, for example. As I added next to the white flower, you can sort of get an idea of how this background is going to look. And well, it is very similar to the colors that I used for the leaves, and this might cause the leaves to disappear. I'm not thrilled about that, but for the most part, I do have a lot of the vibrant, more brighter yellow, so hopefully the leaves won't disappear too much. I do like the combination of white and green. I also have yellow and gold, and these colors do go well together, so I think I'm gonna go with this green. Now, it's not the most deep color, it's not the most rich color. It is sort of a flat color if you ask me, but maybe I can add some shading later with a gray marker. I'm not going to film the coloring because I want to get in really close, and I can't do that if my head is not getting in the way of the coloring. So I'm just going to pause, do my coloring, and I'll come back. So I'm almost done with this background, and I absolutely love the way this looks. It has those dreamy vibe to it. The little dots look very whimsical, I think. I'm glad that I went with this color. This dark green looks really amazing, and the white flowers just pop on this background. I just have to finish this little section, and then we'll be almost done with the background. My background coloring is done, and now I just want to add details using a pencil. So I'm using my Faber-Castell pencils. I really like these, and my goal is to add some detail. Now, these pencils work best on textured paper, and again, on specialty paper. So this particular paper is not the best for the pencil, but because I picked this paper for my foiling needs and then for my coloring needs, I'm going to make it work for my pencil needs. It's not like I'm using the pencil to do a whole lot of coloring. I'm just using it to add accents, so that will do. Again, I kind of need to tilt the paper in the light as I have so much foiling in here, and I just can't see otherwise what I'm doing. So I'm adding some of the orange highlight over these leaves or berries. I'm not sure what to call them. Let's go with berries. I've zoomed in quite a lot so you can see that I also added details to the petals, flower petals. Here I'm using, again, Faber-Castell markers, and I have a cold gray 1, and this is a cold gray 3. It's basically the same colors as I used in Copic markers. I used a C1 and a C3, which are cold gray Copics, and I'm just adding finer details with pencils. I'm adding little flicks here and there onto the petals just to emphasize the folds and emphasize those shadows to help the highlights or the true white of the paper stand out. Sometimes it helps to look at a real flower to see the folds in the petal, to be able to color them better. But I just look at these little scallops and I envision that there are folds in the petal, and I add my little flicks of color to help separate them, if you will. So I've done this flower, but I haven't done this one, and you can clearly see the difference between the two. This one's a lot more defined, while this one still needs work. So I'm going to use my pencils and finish adding detail to all of these. Okay, so my background is done, and I love the way this looks. Just going to trim this and add it onto an A2 card base. I trimmed this cardstock to half of a letter sheet. I thought that this was Spellbinders cardstock, and I even checked my little swatches chart, but it's not Spellbinders cardstock. I don't know what color cardstock it is, but it's very pretty green. I just have it in my stash. I don't remember where it came from. But what I'm trying to say is I'm going to use this cardstock to create an A2 side folding card base. My paper trimmer, and I'm using the scoring blade and just scoring it down the middle. So I scored it at 4 1/4 mark. Going to fold it to create an A2 side folding card base. Emphasize the fold with my bone folder. And now I have my card base ready. I will add a sheet of white cardstock on the inside, but for now, I just want to adhere my color panel to the card base. I'm going to use glue because this is going to give me a little wiggle room. I'm using Barely Arts glue and adding some around the perimeter of the panel and then a little bit in the center. And I'm going to do my best to align the panel with the edge of my card base. With that done, I have a couple of magnets. Going to set these on top, and they will press the paper onto my card base while the glue is drying. This way I don't have to hold it, and I don't have to use my clear blocks because I don't really like using them, and I can just slide it aside. I also have this sentiment set from the same collection. I really like this sentiment set. I have used it one more time previously on this card with the fresh picked florals. I used I'm so sorry sentiment. Here I pressed it in black ink. For this card, I foiled these sentiments in polished brass foil color, and I foiled them on the same cardstock. So the Simon Says stamp, 130-pound cardstock. And then I cut them out using the coordinating die. I really like that this BetterPress plate creates a bunch of sentiments at once, and then you can cut them all out at once. Now, this will not give you the opportunity to do your sentiment directly on the backgrounds, because sometimes I like to do my sentiments directly on my background panel, but there are other sentiments out there that can be used for that. These sentiments are great for mass production. You just foil a bunch at once or BetterPress a bunch at once, and then you cut them out a bunch at once. From the back, I added this clear pocket, and I'm keeping all of my extra sentiments in here. So I think I'm going to use this one. It reads, "This card is full of birthday wishes." I have already added foam adhesive from the back of this card. And I just need to figure out where I want to position it on my card background. Going to use a T-square ruler from Simon Says stamp. This ruler is super helpful to adhere things straight on your card. I usually mess things up, so using this ruler is very helpful to me. So I'm just going to figure out where I want this. Okay, I think that this looks good. It does overlap the flowers a little bit, not too much though. I can work with that. And this finishes my card. I have a lot happening in the background. We have all of the dark color. We have the foiling. So I'm not going to add anything else. I'm not going to add any gems or any sequins, as this card is pretty amazing as is. So thanks so much for spending time with me today. I hope you feel inspired to create. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.